Algebra Lesson 1.3, Properties of Numbers. The focused learning target is I can apply the property of numbers to evaluate expressions. Equivalent expressions are expressions that represent the same number. We have a series of properties of numbers, and we're going to go over them one at a time. The additive inverse property states that the sum of a number and its opposite is 0. For example, if we take a 6 and we add negative 6 to it, we will end up with 0. Or if we start with negative 6 and we add a positive 6 to it, we'll end up with 0. So these are equivalent expressions. The expression on the left side of the equal sign is the same number as the expression on the right side of the equal sign, namely 0. The additive identity property is the sum of a number and 0 is the number. 0 is called the additive identity. An example here would be a number like negative 19, and we're adding 0 to it. 0 plus negative 19 is equal to negative 19. The associative property states that the way you group 3 or more numbers when adding or multiplying does not change the sum or product. For example, negative 2 plus 8 plus 4 is equal to negative 2 plus 8 plus 4. Now notice here we have parentheses around the negative 2 and the 8, which means this operation is going to happen first, since it's higher up on the order of operations. But that does not change the fact that the left side of the equal sign is still equal to the right side of the equal sign, even though the right side of the equal sign we add 8 and 4 first. The same property applies when multiplying. Next is the commutative property. The commutative property states that the order in which you add or multiply numbers does not change the sum or the product. An example would be negative 2 plus 8 is equal to 8 plus negative 2. Here the order that you're adding the numbers is changing, but it does not change the sum. Another example is 8 times negative 4 is equal to negative 4 times 8. Again, the order is changing from the left side of the equal sign to the right side of the equal sign, but the product does not change. Here we have the multiplicative identity property. This one here states the product of a number and 1 is the number. 1 is called the multiplicative identity. An example here would be 1 times negative 99 is equal to negative 99. Next we have the multiplicative property of 0. The product of a number and 0 is 0. An example is 0 times negative 3.4 is equal to 0. Next we have the multiplicative inverse property, which states that the product of reciprocals is 1. And what is a reciprocal? It's where you have a fraction and you flip the numerator and denominator. For example, we have the fraction negative 2 divided by 3. The reciprocal is 3 divided by negative 2. And the multiplicative inverse property states that when you multiply a fraction by its inverse, the answer is equal to 1. Next we have the reflexive property, which states that any quantity is equal to itself. For example, 8 is equal to 8, and 9 minus 3 is equal to 9 minus 3. Next, we have the symmetric property. This one states that if one quantity equals a second quantity, then the second quantity equals the first. For example, if A is equal to B, then B is equal to A. Another example is, if 3 plus 1 is equal to 4, then 4 is equal to 3 plus 1. Next, we have the transitive property. The transitive property states that if one quantity equals a second quantity, and the second quantity equals a third quantity, then the first quantity equals the third quantity. For example, if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. Another example would be if 5 plus 2 is equal to 4 plus 3, and 4 plus 3 is equal to 7, then 5 plus 2 is equal to 7. The last property is the substitution property. The substitution property states that a quantity may be substituted for its equal in any expression. An example is, if A is equal to B, then A may be substituted for B in any expression. For example, if W is equal to 3, then 2W is equal to 2 times 3.